Hello and welcome. I am delighted to be here with my partner, Betsy Sobiech. I'm Peg Rowe, and we're from the Tiara leadership team. We do these Tiara Talks throughout the year, kind of impromptu. They're short and generally very focused on a particular observation that we're making about what's going on with us or our clients and feel like they're relevant to the environment. And so today, we're going to focus on what are the challenges and dilemmas that leaders face when they are in this circumstance that we're all in right now of a lot of uncertainty and a lot of chaos. So how do you manage yourself through that at the same time that you're leading your team or your organization or those around you? And it's a dance that we have to do as leaders in making that happen and not, feeling like we're completely depleted by the end of it. And so we thought today that might be a good place to start. Anything you want to add, Beth?
Yeah, I feel like as the role of leader and manager evolves, I know we're all really watching that, have our eyes on that leading more than anything is leading people through change. It feels like now.
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
get it that there still are other people management things to do and project
Yeah.
management things to do, strategizing, all the things that we've, equated with leadership in the
Right.
past. The thread that continues to be pulled forward, even if you don't have technical skills, is how do you guide and lead or manage people through change and ambiguity?
Yep. And it feels like years ago. I mean, when some of the first work came out on this, it was this idea of acclimating to change. And there was that prediction that, look, that's what we're stepping into. And certainly that prediction has not only turned out to be true, but we're seeing that change is accelerated. It's happening more frequently and faster. So the pace feels like it's kind of relentless at times. So I had shared with Betsy when we were talking about this topic that years ago when I was in corporate America at that time, I went through like a couple of major mergers and the changes were very clear, what we were going to be called, where people were going to sit, who was staying, who was leaving, all that stuff was lined out. That was easy to understand. People didn't always like it, but it was easy to understand. The part that was really hard was having people manage themselves and their teams through the transition, like really getting to the place that they could be in this place of acceptance. And I got to the point that I thought, you know what, I am not getting this. I'm not, I haven't found a way for myself. I feel like I'm kind of swimming through, mud when I'm trying to sort this out. It's not clear at all. And I actually talked to my sister who is in OD at a company in Northern California, and she suggested Bill Bridges, whose work now has become sort of like the masters of doing transition management, and it's kind of a classic. But I was fortunate to go spend some time, I spent 5 days in a training with him that really clarified for me, here's what happens to people during transitions. His whole famous saying of all, new beginnings start with an ending. I will probably go to my grave, with that in my mind, because it really felt like where I got stuck with my teams was managing them through the grief, the letting go, the ending piece, and then all the uncertainty that happened in the middle. And my analogy was I felt like I had to put a miner's cap on, take people by the hand, and lead them towards the vision of where we were going, even when that felt a little murky. But that was my job as a leader to provide that steadiness that, okay, we know where we're going, we're heading there, we're going to get there one step at a time. And I think that is part of the challenge of leaders, because you're doing that with your team. At the same time, internally, you're dealing with your own sense of, I don't know how this is all going to turn out. I don't know how this is going to all go. So it is a little bit of an interesting dilemma, I think, to be managing the both and of leading people in a way that feels effective and at the same time managing yourself.
Right. It's like, how do you create safe space for others when you're feeling slightly unsafe or off balance
Yes.
yourself, while still wanting to be genuine and authentic? Like there's also
Yeah.
a call for authenticity right now for leaders and managers that sometimes we might lean too much into sharing something that really doesn't have to be shared with your
Right.
team, shared with a sounding board or a colleague or your own manager,
Mhm.
in order to create that safe space while still sharing that's uneasy, and that you might have your own
Yes.
concerns or fears or going through it with them instead of having it all figured out, because
Yeah.
uh, trying to act more confident than you are also doesn't necessarily work. But
No.
I'm really thinking about this, and I actually feel like we could talk about it for a long time. But
Yeah.
because just in the past few years, along with everybody, I have found myself managing change and in a surprising way. So for most of my career, I've been a coach and consultant and really done things from the outside in an
Mhm.
organization, even in the official role of change management or change manager. And for the past 4 years, with two different gigs that I've had, I've been a manager of a team, of a small team.
Yeah.
It's really facing a huge change. Like during COVID, I was the manager of a team that was taking a huge class totally from in person to online during a tumultuous environment where there was a
Yeah.
lot of unknowns, and I didn't know, how to
Yeah.
go through all of it, and they didn't know, but yet I was
Yeah.
in that manager role. So there are three things, as I was prepping for today, like three things that I feel like I have reminded myself to do to help lead myself through the change, so then
Mhm.
I can create that bubble of safety as other people are going through
Yeah.
change. First is making sure that I do take time outside of work for the things that I know most replenish me. So
Mhm.
time tier tool is nourishing practices, and this is a time to double down on those and not
Yes.
work, stress, or do too much or work all weekend. Like actually shut it down, do what you need to do. Like if it's walk in nature, go to a yoga class, good night's sleep, take a weekend away.
Mhm.
Sometimes change can be very compelling, like you have to work harder,
Yeah.
but it's not to really stop and replenish. So that's one thing. The other thing that I really try to do is give my brain. I treat my brain sometimes like a puppy. So I have a dog that. And so during change and the unknown, the brain, the puppy left to its own device, usually chews on something it's not supposed to, like how
Yeah.
everything is going to go wrong, or what the worst case scenario is. So I have
Yeah.
to be really cognizant of like, what is the bone or the treat that I'm giving my brain to chew on that leads me towards something, that light,
Yeah.
that purpose, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's just a mantra or a purpose statement or a vision or a soothing
Mhm.
statement, so that it feels like that's the case, for sure. And then the other thing I would say is uh, listening. So a
Mhm.
lot of times this goes back to what you said about there's like this grieving process for people too.
Yes.
And so reminding myself that all the work we've done around inclusive practice and listening so others
Mhm.
feel heard, that's what people need a lot. And to not
Yeah.
jump to trying to solve the problems or answer all the questions or even get the
Mhm.
answers, but just like, how are people feeling? What are
Mhm.
they experiencing? So they feel heard and valid in the process. And then going to the Bridges 4 piece, which I learned in my, OD program. I pull out all the time, where it's like, what is the purpose? Why are we doing this?
Yes.
What's the future? What does it look like at the end of
Right.
the tunnel? What's the part? What is you being asked to do now? Like, what's the part
Right.
that the
Yep.
plan? How are we getting from here to there until we have our next check-in?
Right.
So, and all that helps, me feel
Yeah.
like in a space where I can then be present for the people who are trusting me to take that leadership role.
Absolutely. And I think what you're pointing to is absent complete certainty, what do we do to provide sort of interim bridges, if you will, between where we are and the next place that we're going to go? It's not the full answer, but it gives people that thing they can latch onto and go like, okay, I know for the next 2 weeks, here's what we're focused on. Here's where our attention needs to be.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about this tricky piece of alignment where the world around us isn't particularly, certain, then how do you make that environment feel more certain in the moment? It doesn't have to feel certain forever, but how does we make it feel more certain in the moment so we can achieve a level of internal and external alignment with the outcomes that we want? And that we know makes things happen more easily. It just, we get results in an easier way when we're not struggling against what we don't know. When we're finding a way to create some level of certainty, we can, for that moment, be present to.
Yeah. And I think in my own evolution, like I said, way back at the beginning, I had jobs as a change manager and got called in on change management projects. I don't think change can actually be managed anymore. I've sort of let that balloon fly away.
Yep.
All the things around how do I navigate change? And the metaphor is more like paddling down a river, right? So like what
Yeah,
you just like, where am I? Is the next place rocky or smooth? Do I have control
right.
or no control? Where do I get to stop again
Yeah,
where I'm at? So it's more like navigating change with an eye toward where you want to end up than really
yeah,
having the illusion that I'm managing change.
yeah. Great analogy for all of that. Well, this has just been a short snippet. We actually have a roundtable, a virtual roundtable coming up in June. It's on, I think, let me make sure, June 21st of 2023. So I don't know when you're going to be listening to this Tiara Talk. So we may have already done it by then. But we're really going to delve into this kind of topic, like how do you lead in the midst of chaos? And we'll be actually talking and sharing with 4 accomplished leaders who have, encountered this kind of chaos and uncertainty themselves. And we'll tap into their knowledge and expertise and their wisdom for how to do that. So if this is a situation you're grabbing for yourself, then by all means join us or listen to the VRT. You can go to our website, www.tiaraleadership.com, for more details. So thanks for joining us today. And it's been a pleasure to to kind of chew through this topic for a couple of minutes with you, Betsy. And we hope to see you or hear from you as you have your own experiences with managing through change.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.